Hi, this is James, and I'd like to welcome you to the Oracle Outlook for the week starting July the 10th, 2017. Before getting into this week's reading, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge my viewers and subscribers of the channel. I want to thank you for your continued support and encouragement of the work that goes into this channel. I had a number of new subscribers over the last few weeks subscribe to the channel, so if you're new as a subscriber, I want to officially take a moment to welcome you and saying once again, thank you for taking that step to subscribe to the channel. Whether you're a viewer or subscriber, your support and encouragement means the world to me. So thank you for that. So now for this week, I wanted to work with the Lenormand because I'm in the midst of filming another Lenormand video series. And so I figured since I was on a roll with Lenormand, why not just keep things going? So the deck that's going to be assisting me for this week's reading is the Maybe Lenormand by Ryan Edward, and it is published by US Game Systems. Now the interesting thing about the Maybe Lenormand is that it has 52 cards in the deck, and the 36 standard cards are what's familiar to those of you who read Lenormand, but the other remaining cards are from different cartomancy systems like the old Gypsy Witch cards and the Whitman Gypsy fortune-telling cards. So if you're familiar with either one of those systems, some of those cards have been incorporated into this particular deck. But for this week's reading, I'm only working with the 36 standard Lenormand cards. So I have them on the table, and I'm going to take a moment to shuffle. And as I do for every weekly reading that's done on this channel, my basic intention and question is, what do we need to know for the week ahead? Feeling that's good, so I'm going to go ahead and cut the cards and fan them out. And when I work with Lenormand, I do a line of 5, so I'm looking for 5 cards in the fan that are getting my attention. All right, I have the 5 cards picked out, and so now I'm going to put the remainder of the deck aside. And when I work with a line of 5, I always start with the middle card. For me, the middle card, I tend to look at it as the central issue or what we're being asked to focus on for the week going forward. So our card here is, this is the Clover. So the Clover is a card that can represent good luck. It could represent good fortune. It could represent opportunity. So for me, it's making me feel like for this week coming forward, we're being asked to look at opportunities that come our way. Sometimes this card carries with it a kind of a dual aspect of it. So the opportunities that we're being asked to focus on or take a look at, we can consider taking a look at it as a chance, like it's a chance opportunity, something that's fortuitous, something that's going to bring us some good luck, something that may provide a turnaround. But this card can also be about taking a look at opportunity in terms of like what are the risks or what are the gambles, right? So we could look at it as taking a chance, that kind of thing, or we can take a look at it as like what are the possible risks? Is it going to be a gamble? That kind of thing. No matter how we look at it, the Clover can represent something that's brief or short term. So there may be a small window along with this opportunity. And so we may need to if we need to be looking at it from one side or the other in terms of a chance or a risk or a gamble, we may not have a lot of time to do that because, again, this represents something short or something brief in nature. So that's how I would look at the Clover. Oh, as I'm saying that, this card can also be about like a particular kind of attitude or approach to the week. And so this card can suggest, being spontaneous. And so that may be where the risk or the gamble comes in for some people. If you're not a spontaneous person, I will confess that I'm not the most spontaneous person. I tend to be a planner. So I don't have a lot of spontaneity. So for me, it could be, saying too, like, how can I have a more carefree, playful, spontaneous approach to life. That would be Clover. So that could be some other aspect to kind of consider. So again, Clover for me represents opportunities and could be an opportunity for something fortuitous, but it could also be like we're being asked to look at what are the possible risks or gambles with that opportunity, because again, the window of time may be short or brief, but also to how can we be a little more carefree and a little more spontaneous this week. So that's just looking at the card by itself. If you're familiar with Lenormand, you know that Lenormand is best read in combination or pairs, and so that's where the surrounding cards come in, because they will greatly give us more information or impact or affect what Clover is all about. So looking at the cards from left to right, we have, first card is the Anchor. In between Anchor and Clover, we have the Sun. On the right side of Clover, we have Fish. And then rounding out the line, we have Book. Okay, I like this reading. Okay. So what I do is when I work with a line of 5, I immediately go one step out. So I'm looking at the cards that are immediately flanking Clover. So here on the immediate left, we have Sun. So the interesting thing that I notice here is that both Sun and Clover carry a similar message, and that is luck. So for me, the Sun card is big luck, whereas Clover is little luck. So there's something about luck being on our side. Yes, I did say that. Luck being on our side this week with both these cards in the same line and in close proximity to each other. So Sun for me is a card that can represent success. So it could be like there's going to be an opportunity for success this week that we're going to be looking at. Again, it's making me feel like that might be something short term, going again with the brief and short-term aspects of Clover, but this could be an opportunity for success this week. The Sun card is also about illumination, so this could be a time where we may have an opportunity for clarification, something becomes clear, something becomes illumined, we become enlightened, something of that nature. The other thing with Sun for me, Sun is a card that can represent positive energy, right? So it could be going with the whole idea about being carefree and being spontaneous. This card would suggest like being positive in that kind of approach, you know. So if you are like me and you don't tend to be terribly spontaneous, the Sun card says, would you be willing to shift your energy in that? Would you be willing to see it in a more positive light, you know, and seeing the benefits of, you know, being spontaneous? You know, it's not all bad. There is some aspects of good in being spontaneous. So could you see the good in that this week? So for me, Sun is, again, it's about success. It's about confidence. So for some of us, we may be giving, or we may be presented an opportunity that's going to allow us to become more confident, you know, to shine in our own sense of brilliance or radiance, whatever that is for each of us. So I'm seeing that with Sun. Now on the other side of Sun, we have Fish. So Fish for me is a card that can represent money, right? I tend to look at this as finances. I tend to look at it as cash. I tend to look at it as cash flow. So if we go with the idea that Clover can represent opportunity, Fish could say this is an opportunity for money, right? And it would be very interesting because Clover in that sense can represent things like a bonus. Like if we're talking about cash with Fish, then it could be a small amount of cash. If we go with the whole idea about a risk or a gamble that I talked about with Clover, it could be for someone who maybe, you know, participates in the sweepstakes or the lottery, or, you know, puts money into that kind of thing. You might find yourself winning a small amount of money through that, because Clover represents, again, something small. So we're talking about a small amount of money. But I'm seeing that. And so I'm asking, what else do I need to say? So yeah, so it could be an opportunity for money to come your way. It could be an opportunity, if we go with Clover being opportunity, to maybe become more clear or more enlightened about your finances this week. You know, I'm seeing that if we pair Sun and Fish, you know, as, you know, illumination about cash and cash flow, let's say. So I'm seeing that. Now, the interesting thing that I'm also noting right here with these three cards is that all three of them are from the suit of diamonds. So diamonds for me is a suit that can represent money. It can represent success. So we have two aspects with fish, the money aspect, and sun, the success aspect of the suit showing up in the reading as well. We have a face card, so we have the King of Diamonds. So the King of Diamonds can represent, someone who has financial means. It can also be somebody who's an entrepreneur. I tend to look at this card, the King of Diamonds, as an entrepreneur, somebody who's self-employed. So it could be, that could be an opportunity. There may be an opportunity for someone who's self-employed to make a shift financially in their business. It could be like if you've been having challenges with that, you may see some small turnaround, something about cash flow, coming back in. I tend to look at fish as about circulation, so it's about circulating money. So, the idea of circulation is that money comes in and money goes out. But, so you may see a change in the circulation of it. You may have been experiencing more money going out than coming in. So these cards are making me feel like if that's the case, if that resonates with you, if that fits for you, there may be some sort of turnaround with that. So I'm seeing that with those three cards. Now let's take a look at the outer card. So the card on the far left is Anchor. So Anchor for me represents work. It could represent long-term work, right? So there may be some sort of opportunity for someone regarding their long-term work. The other thing with Anchor for me is that this is a card that can represent stability and security, right? So there may be an opportunity being presented that's going to create a greater sense of stability and security, and that would make sense with the sun being right next to Anchor, right? So sun, remember, is about success, right? So here we have maybe successful work, or stability and security that becomes successful or that leads to success, or it could even be the sense of stability and security through work makes a person feel more confident and brings a greater sense of positive energy. Those are all aspects of sun. But again, Anchor for me is about work, long-term work, and especially too, if we're talking about, because this thought just came in, if we're talking about the idea for an opportunity, right? So this may be, whatever the situation is for each of us, this may be an opportunity to see our sense of perseverance and remaining hopeful. Again, those are aspects of Anchor for me, perseverance and hope. We could see that pay off in a big way, right? Because it's making me feel like with the sun and clover, that pays off in a big way. So we get to see our persistence, there's a payoff for that. There's a reward for that. So I'm seeing that with Anchor. Now, going to the opposite end of the line, we have Book. So for me, Book is a card that can represent knowledge. It can represent education. Whenever I see this at the end of a line like it is appearing in this week, it can represent knowledge being gained as a result of having gone through a particular experience. So at the end of it, at the end of the experience, there's knowledge to be gained. There is something that has been learned. And so for me, Book can represent like taking that knowledge and going forward with it, right? So it could also be too, the opportunity could be for somebody to work in a project. Book for me can represent a project, right? And so the project could be with Anchor on the other side. We are gaining a greater sense of stability and security through a particular project, It could be too, like maybe we are working on a project in the future that's going to afford us, going with fish, going to afford us a greater sense of stability and security. So I'm seeing that. It could also be too for someone, and maybe this is the business aspect that I talked about with the King of Diamonds. For someone may need to really consider a sense of perseverance and being hopeful in relation to their work, right? I'm seeing that like the message here could be like there's something to be gained in learning to persevere through an experience, right? So it's making me feel too like whatever this is, you're being inclined, okay, the message I'm seeing is like you're being inclined to stick with what it is that you're doing. It's making me feel the expression of, striking gold. There's a story about, a lot of people who quit or give up right before they strike gold. So for someone, this may be like you may have been involved in maybe a long-term project, and you haven't been able to see it pay off, and you may have been feeling like, I want to throw in a towel, I want to give up hope, I want to move on to something else. Anchor is saying stick with it, right? And the other cards are making me feel like it's going to pay off. You just have to stick with it. You have to not give up hope, right? So I'm seeing that. And then Book comes in and saying, like, stick with the project because it's about to pay off. You are about to learn something valuable, going with Fish, from sticking with it. And as I say that, I'm looking at the playing card insert. We have 4 out of the 5 cards this week come from the Diamond suit. So there is something about value. There is something about worth. There is something about something to be gained that's going to be immeasurable if you stick with it. But the idea here is about learning through everyday material concerns and everyday life experiences, because that's another aspect of diamonds for me. So I'm going to go ahead and sum up. So opening up the line, we have anchor. So for me, anchor is about long-term work, but it's also about something having to do with stability and security. So that may be the thing that we're kind of focusing on this week, or putting our concerns on this week. So it's about like working on stability and security. How can we feel a greater sense of both this week in terms of the work or in relation to the work that we're doing? I think for some of us, this card is saying there may be something that we're working on that we need to stick with, that we need to persevere and not give up hope on. And that brings us to Sun. Sun is also about confidence. So there's about something about our confidence being built up. There's something about success being around the way, or we become more clear on our role in a situation that's going to help us become more successful. But I also think too, this card is about positive energy. So that whole idea about sticking with something and persevering and not giving up hope, I think is being reinforced with Sun card. Sun card is about positive energy. So how can we have a more positive or glowing outlook with that? And then we have Clover, Clover being the middle card, the focus card. This is about opportunities being presented to us, possibly. And with the opportunities, we get to choose how we're going to look at it. Are we going to be willing to take a chance? Or are we going to be looking at it from a place of what are the risks and what are the gambles? And if we are looking at it from that, will we be willing to take the risk or the gamble, right? And that may be where the spontaneity kicks in with Clover, right? You may get the sudden urge. It may be something you have totally not done, something that is totally not in your character, but you're going to be spontaneous and you're going to take a leap of faith, right? And then we move on to Fish. Fish is about money, it's about cash, it's about circulation, it's about something going deeper. It's about like looking at something from a deeper place or a deeper perspective, just beyond the surface. But I'm going to go with it. It's making me feel more about money and finances, and taking a look at that. There may be a greater chance to be successful in that area, especially with Clover and Fish showing up in the same line right next to each other. For someone may actually come into a little bit of money this week. Clover represents something small, and Fish being cash, there may be some sort of bonus, and with that, it's making me feel like for some people it may be a literal cash bonus, and for others we may see the bonus in sticking with something. Again, it's making me feel like something is going to pay off, but it's a sense of sticking with it, persevering, and having hope. And then we come to the end of the line with Book, and remember, Book is all about knowledge and education. So it represents for me, at the end of the experience, when we reflect on it, we look at it as a wonderful learning experience, right? We learn something that we could only have learned through this particular experience and having it show up in the way that it did in life. And so on that note, I will wrap up and end this week's Oracle Outlook. I'm James Himm Mitchell, and I'd like to thank you for sharing space here with me for this week's reading, and I look forward to sharing the same space with you again in our next video reading together. So until then, I'm hoping that you have a wonderful day, and I'm hoping that you have a wonderful week. Take care.